Hugh Freeze has his guy at quarterback, but will Jackson Arnold stand atop the SEC when it's all said and done? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the World Report. I'm your host, Mike G. And thank you so much for giving us a listen this morning. Joining me as he does every week is my partner in crime, Ike Jones. Ike, we're talking quarterback today, SEC quarterback today. We're going to see where Jackson Arnold is going to land in all this, and then we'll talk about expectations for the young man after the break. Let's jump right in here. Guys, if you're watching this, please hit like and subscribe on the channel. We appreciate that. And if you're watching this on replay, do us a favor. Hit that super thanks button if you want to show us some love. A lot of you guys have signed up as members. We appreciate you when you show us a little extra love in the comments as well. To jumping in here, Jackson Arnold is the guy at quarterback. I think we can both agree there is no quarterback controversy on the Plains right now. Jackson Arnold is going to be the starter come August.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody is saying otherwise, then I don't know why would Jackson Arnold transfer over to Auburn? He had his, he wasn't the most highly sought after guy, but he definitely had his picks of places that he could have gone. He wasn't coming over here to battle with someone else for a starting quarterback position like he would have had to do if he had stayed at Oklahoma. He is the guy for Auburn this year, for sure.
He is definitely the guy. Look, he is a former 5-star QB. And, you know, it's so many times these guys have one bad season and then everybody writes them off. Oklahoma famously struggled on offense last year. There are a lot of people who think that was Jackson Arnold's fault. I don't think it was his fault. I think they were dysfunctional. Now, they picked up Mateer, so I think we'll find out how much of that was the QB and how much of that was the system this coming season at Oklahoma. But certainly, Hugh Freeze thinks he has a guy in Jackson Arnold. I think he has a guy, too. Let's talk expectations here, Ike. We talk a lot about that 3,000-yard mark. How rare it is for an Auburn QB to reach that 3,000-yard mark in a single season. It's only happened a few times. Peyton Thorne came up just short of that last year at 2,700 yards, albeit sitting out about a game and a half. Do you think Jackson Arnold gets to 3,000 yards this season?
It's setting up for him to be able to do that. He's got all of the weapons. He has a coaching staff that is now in their second season calling plays together, figuring out game plans together for the offense. That wide receiver room is about as deep as you've ever seen an Auburn wide receiver room be. The offensive line has some quality and depth involved there. There's no reason why 3,000 yards isn't an attainable thing with the weapons and the tools that he has physically. He just needs to take care of the football, and they need to put him in the right position. I am saying, yes, he's going to get there just because I feel like it's tragic if he doesn't. Like, there's just there's no foreseeable reason that this should not happen for him, absent of a disaster. And who wants to see a disaster?
I don't want to see a disaster, but I'll tell you, it feels like Freeze has set a safe floor for him with this wide receiver room. You just mentioned them. You said it's good for Auburn. I think this is good for in terms of college football. This might be one of the best receivers rooms in college football right now. Now, they haven't accomplished a ton as a group, but as far as their talent ceiling, it's as high as anybody in the country right now with Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Eric Singleton, young Malcolm Simmons, who exploded on the scene. Hugh Freeze described this guy as going 200 miles an hour, but sometimes just doing the wrong thing. If he's doing the right thing this year, he's going to be super dangerous. You've got another top 50 guy in Bryce Kane. Horatio Fields came over. Sam Turner is making splashes. I don't even know how they're going to get all these guys on the field.
Yeah, it's going to be a task. I do not envy the job of whoever is in charge of wide receiver rotations this year. Yeah, Marcus Davis is the guy that has to decide, it starts number one with a thing that we've talked about on this show. They need to get more receivers on the field at the same time, right? More 3 and 4 receiver sets is going to make Marcus Davis's job a little bit easier because you have to rotate players through more positions. But if you're going into these 2 receiver sets more often and you're, going heavy with tight ends and double running backs and all that kind of thing, you're going to put yourself in a position where there's just not enough snaps to keep everybody happy. I don't even know if you get enough snaps that everybody's going to be happy just because of the number of targets they're going to get, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is a difficult proposition to figure out how to do. Great problem to have for one season, though, is we've got so much talent. I don't know how we're going to get everybody the football.
Yeah, look, Hugh Freeze talked repeatedly about catch radius, and he went out and he got his guys that had that catch radius. I thought we saw that on A-Day with Perry Thompson. Even he was a guy who maybe fell down the depth chart with Keandre Lambert-Smith coming in, and he was a freshman and he was still trying to find his footing. I think he's found it, and now that he's found it, that's a scary thing for opposing defenses this season, because if you're Jackson Arnold, you've got the wide receiver room you did not have at Oklahoma last year.
For sure.
And I think that that's got to raise that floor for him statistically. Now, we talk about that 3,000-yard mark and whether he'll get here, but I don't think that's where the discussion stops. I think the discussion really is, how far past that does he go? Because what we've seen in college football is the teams that are the most successful, those guys are pushing 3,500 to 4,000 yards passing. Is starting to become more common the more we see the passing games evolve at the college level.
Yeah, I mean, listen, throwing the football is a foreign concept in Auburn, but it is not in college football. It is not in the professional league. So Auburn needs to catch up in that regard, because let's be clear. Auburn had, as far as statistics are concerned, the second best running back in the SEC last season, right?
Yeah.
As far as rushing yards are concerned. And Auburn still did not
per rush.
Right. But still did not run the ball in a ridiculous amount of times, right? You don't have that running back in this running back room, and that doesn't mean that I'm low on the talent in that running back room. I think that means you are going to be leaning on the pass game even more this season. All the more reason Jackson Arnold should have those opportunities. A statistic that you like to quote is the average number of attempts per season traditionally that Hugh Freeze quarterbacks have. They've got to get up into that radius in order for him to reach that 3,000-yard mark. And if they get into 400 attempts on the season, there is no reason why in 400 attempts with all of these amazing pass catching targets that you have, that 3,000 yards is not attainable for Jackson Arnold.
Strangely enough, only 3 quarterbacks in the SEC last year had 400 or more attempts. I thought this was an interesting stat here. Quinn Ewers, 445 attempts. Carson Beck, 448 attempts. And Garrett Nussbaum-Meyer, a staggering 525 attempts. Now, he completed.
You got to think about that, though. Like, so everybody who eclipsed 400, though, that's like a full game's worth of throws for most quarterbacks above 400. Sure.
Yeah.
And so that means that they're just throwing the ball a lot. But this is what Coach Hugh Freeze's offense has traditionally been. Like, I know he talks that balance stuff, but he's throwing the ball around the yard quite a bit more. And I think it's because they just have not been maintaining possessions the way that Coach Hugh Freeze offenses are typically doing. They've got to do a better job of staying on the field a little bit more, not giving the ball away. But yeah, 400 attempts, I don't think is going to be abnormal. We're talking about Hugh Freeze throwing the ball around 350 plus 10 years or 7-8 years ago, before offense has really evolved into what it is right now. Now you're in the time when that's supposed to be happening. Auburn's got to catch up with that.
Yeah, they do have to catch up with that. Now, I'd be remiss if I did not mention Jackson Dart had 398 attempts last season. So, I mean, we can round him up and just say there were 4 quarterbacks with 400 attempts, I guess. Now, Peyton Thorne came in with 317 attempts. He had 2,713 yards. That was good for 7th in the conference. Ranked in front of him in order from lowest to highest, Jalen Milroe at Alabama, Taylon Green at Arkansas, Quinn Ewers at Texas, Carson Beck at Georgia, Garrett Nussbaum-Meyer at LSU, and the SEC's leading passer, and Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. So that's what you're up against there. If he gets 400 attempts, where do you think that puts him in terms of the conference? Can he be a top three passer in terms of total yardage in the conference with 400 attempts?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you're looking at the offenses around the conference, I don't know what Tennessee is going to be now that they have an upheaval at quarterback. They still have a great system around him, great players around him, but I don't know what Tennessee is going to be. I think that Florida is going to have a good offense. I just don't know that the passing offense is going to be the biggest portion of that. I do think that as good as I think Lagway is, they're going to be running the ball quite a bit. That Oklahoma offense is going to throw it around quite a bit. Georgia, don't really know yet how much they're going to lean on their pass game, right? Kentucky, I don't know how much they're going to, like, they've just traditionally not been a throw it around the yard kind of offense. South Carolina, I don't think they're going to throw it around a bunch. Texas, Ole Miss really are the only schools I can think of just right off the top of my head where I'm like, yes, they're going to have a passer who is going to really air it out. Maybe Oklahoma with Mateer over there, but Vandy's going to run the ball a bunch. LSU, don't really know what they're, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just a lot of unknowns around there. Alabama, new quarterback, don't really know what the offense is going to look like. I think he definitely has an opportunity to be in the top 3 or 4 passers if he's able to get 400 attempts.
I agree with you. Look, again, looking at the numbers here, Lenore Sellers should be one of the best quarterbacks in the conference next year, barring a complete catastrophe for that young man. But certainly we saw him develop a lot. Only 299 attempts last year. Now, he completed at a 65% clip for 2,500 yards. Obviously, he was very dangerous with his legs as well, too. And he had 18 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. So those numbers aren't exactly staggering in the passing game. And if you're Jackson Arnold, you got to think he's going to be able to do better than some of those guys. But who is he mainly going to target while he's doing it? A lot of people think it's Cam Coleman. I'm not so sure. We'll talk about that right after a quick word from our sponsors, our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. It's the spring, and it's time to get outside with the family, make some memories, grill by the fire, work out, grill out. Chill out with our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Also, our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Our guy Richard helping me get some sweet dreams. He's got some CBD gummies, THC free, but they definitely are effective for sleep. So whether it's sleep, whether it's your girl bothering you, they got something to help you out there over at the Rogue Shop. Also, our friends at the Vibe Vault, visit them at 3462 Cross Winds Road, Sweet Eye in Phoenix City, Alabama. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area, or if you don't mind making the drive down from Auburn, Opelika, go visit our friends at the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants, helping you stay fresh for the weekend. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, and by the Renfro Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. Guys, if you are watching this, do us a favor, hit that. Jackson Arnold will finish in terms of yardage in the conference. And if you don't mind, help support the channel. That super button is there for you. Show a little extra love for the channel. And if you're watching and haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate our community for helping us grow our community. Who's he going to throw to, Ike? Who's going to be his number one target? I'm not sure it's Cam Coleman. I'm thinking that, depending on how much we see Jackson Arnold check down, it has a chance to be one of the slot guys that end up being one of Jackson Arnold's favorite targets. Who do you see him forming a dynamic relationship with this fall?
Yeah, I'm still going to go with Cam Coleman just because of the big body, the big radius. I think Cam Coleman's a guy that he's going to have to get the ball to. When you think about guys, the other person, of course, that comes to mind is going to be Eric Singleton because of the multiplicity of ways they're going to try to utilize him as far as quick screens. The quick slant is a big part of this game, and then the deep shots. But crazily enough, I think because of the speed that Eric Singleton brings, he's going to get more of the safety over the top looks than Cam Coleman is going to get, which means Cam Coleman, as wild as this sounds, is going to be left on an island quite a little bit this year. And that means he's going to get one-on-one opportunities. I think Eric Singleton's speed is that dangerous that teams are going to just say to themselves, we're just going to have to live with Cam Coleman eating us alive from 8 yards at a time because we're not giving up the 60-yard bomb to Eric Singleton.
Yeah, and that's an interesting take. Cam Coleman being on an island, certainly he's not going to surprise anybody. Cam Coleman's not going to sneak up on anybody in college football. They will be game planning to stop Cam Coleman this year. I think what you see early, and I'm going to agree with your take some here, is that find out how dangerous it is. And then suddenly when he says, we got to guard everybody, Cam is free to do whatever he wants. That is the beauty of the construction of this wide receiver room. There is no one person you're going to lock down that's going to stop this passing game. As a matter of fact, I think the only person who can stop that game is Arnold or Hugh Freeze. But at the day, he's got a multiplicity of weapons to get the ball to here, and it's such a different conversation than we've had in the past about Auburn, because all we've heard is fans complain about lack of depth in the wide receiver room. They can't catch, they can't run routes, they can't do this, they can't do that. Hugh Freeze has solved that problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not an issue. If anybody's complaining about it, then that is revisionist, because this has been a highly touted room since the moment they stepped on the plains last year. The Freeze 4 + 1, Dylan Gentry, off happy trails to you on the transfer situation there. But yeah, but now that you've got Eric Singleton added to this room as well, again, I'm going to be disappointed. Like I just the exasperation I will have for lacking competency in the pass game with the number of talented targets that you have available to you in the wide receiver room. I just don't know that there's an excuse for that. If a guy's not getting it done, get him out there, get somebody else out. There's no reason wide receivers should not be able to handle their business unless the quarterback is wildly inaccurate or the offensive line is abysmal at pass protection. That's it. Otherwise, you should be able to do what you want to out there at the wide receiver position, because, and no disrespect to the defensive backs in this conference, there should not be a collection of defensive backs week in and week out, maybe every now and then, right, when you get to the Georgias of the world who have had great secondaries. And I mean, really, I don't know Oklahoma, who's always had a very good defense, right? But outside of that, there shouldn't be a collection of 3 DBs that lock down all 3 or 4 receivers on your team at a time. Yeah. Somebody should be able to eat on a consistent basis, find a weak link out there and go to town on them. This should be the year that there's no excuses for that offense to be able to move the ball, because you have a mismatch somewhere out there.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to stop the talent. I think the talent has to stop themselves. So either by not executing correctly, bad play calls, it's going to be something procedural that slows them down. I don't think they're going to get out-talented by anybody, so to speak, this year. That's what you've tried to build, and that's what you were successful at building through recruiting. Now it's time to do it. Now, look, a lot of people think that Eric Singleton is going to be the next Keandre Lambert-Smith. And when I say that, maybe not in the mold of the same type of player, but the next big portal receiver that comes in, has a big season. I feel like you've got to, at some point, lean into your high school guys, right? Yeah. Especially when you're recruiting top 100 guys. Now, we know Bryce Kane and Malcolm Simmons were top 150 guys. Malcolm got his time in, so he might as well be a top 50 guy now. Like, based on what we saw last year, if you had to re-rank him coming in, he'd be a top 50 guy. Now, Bryce Kane didn't get his opportunity last year, but certainly Perry Thompson was a top 30 guy. I think he was ranked 28 or 29th in the country coming in overall. So you've got to get these guys on the field. And I don't think that the arrival of Eric Singleton should limit the opportunities that the guys who are part of what I'll call your anchor receiver class get. Those guys should get their opportunities this year, and you've got to scheme it up. Now, part of that, I think, will be making sure that the offense keeps running and that you get more plays in this year than you got last year. Yeah, Auburn should be somewhere in north of 70 plays a game this year, should they not?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to run more tempo. Again, you should have opportunities to be able to get receivers in ISO situations, and it doesn't have to be big plays all the time. But yeah, you should be able to move the chains pretty consistently with the kinds of receivers that you have that can be possession type receivers. You mentioned Perry Thompson. We've already talked about Cam Coleman, Horatio Fields, another big body receiver that you have the opportunity to just say, all right, we need 5 yards really quickly. Just go post the guy up, and we're just going to throw it to you, and you're going to out jump on whatever it's going to be. You should be able to do that consistently enough to keep the chains moving. And then you should be able to keep guys fresh enough that you're rotating them through. So nobody's feeling like, all right, I just ran a 60-yard route. Let me just go out the field, run somebody else out there, and we're just going to keep this train in motion. You absolutely have the opportunity to do that this year because of the multiplicity of receivers that you have and the talent that they have to be able to move around to different spots on the field. But again, they've got to be ready to seize that opportunity. You need to be able to know, all right, I'm moving on the other side of the field this time. We're flipping, blah, blah. If you can do that and you can understand the playbook to that level, then they can keep that train moving pretty quickly.
There are those in the media that are trying really hard to make Sam Turner happen the way they made Sam Jackson. They tried to make Sam Jackson happen last year. This young man is talented. He's had a good spring. I don't see it. I don't see how.
I haven't watched him yet at practice, so I've heard good things about him, but I don't know enough about, other than little bit I've seen from his high school tape. I do think that he's a supremely talented wide receiver, but I haven't watched him, so I don't have a huge opinion on Sam Turner's abilities right now.
I'll tell you this: if he jumps into the starting lineup or even into the regular rotation, this young man it will be prolific. Because it will take a lot, not only to surpass the talent in front of him, but the politics and the recruiting in front of him as well, too. It's a lot. It's a lot to handle, right? And, with the proliferation of NIL in college sports, we have to face the fact that the dollars that go behind some of these kids are going to factor into who plays and who doesn't play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely has a part to play. Here's the thing that I just want to see. If he's one of the best guys, let him play. I don't care anything about that.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not letting a talented wide receiver walk out of the room when I've got a talented wide. I'm letting somebody walk that is worse than the guy that I have in the room right now, and we'll figure all that stuff out later. Hugh Freeze is in a position right now where playing politics only needs to go so far. You got to win games.
Yeah.
And if we're going to put somebody out there on the field for the sake of politics, but it's not winning us football games, you're not coaching the right way in year 3. You're 1 and 2. All right, cool. You had a little, you're running out of that leash at this point in time. You need to prove you're going to put the best guys out there on the field, because that's the only way you're going to continue to recruit the best guys to put out there on the field.
Fortunately for him, all the guys in this conversation are extremely talented. So no matter who he chooses to put out there, I think he's going to have options if one doesn't work out. So it's going to be really, really fun to track their progress. Fascinating conversation that we will continue here at the War Report. Guys, that's it for another great edition of the War Report. Again, if you're watching this, please hit that subscribe button for us. Help us grow these numbers. And if you're in the comments after the video, drop us a little extra love with a super thanks. We appreciate you guys for helping support our content. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow. Please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.